In the previous lesson, we looked at all the really neat things we can do with operators. So this time we're going to look at conditional operators, logical operators, and the functionality that we can put behind them. So we're going to use that button. I believe we're using the button 1. So whenever we click the first button, we want to add in some additional functionality here. So for this lesson, we're going to look at just taking a look at maybe something like setting a value for status, and I'm going to equal status to do a comparison here to see if A is greater than B, and this is actually what's called a ternary operator. So this is similar to conditions that we're going to look at upcoming as well. So similar to what we did over here where we did an if, but this is going to do that condition, and instead of returning a set value for status, it's going to do that comparison here, and it's going to output if A is true, then we're going to output A bigger than B, and if it's not true, then we're going to output B bigger than A. And so what's going to happen here is that essentially, depending on if the condition gets met, status will have a different value. So I'm going to update that inner HTML to be the value of status. So let's check this out and see how this works. And just reminder that this is the ternary operator. So I'm just going to comment that in there. So let's refresh this and click the first button there. And we see that I didn't actually spell status right, so I need to update that. And let's refresh that again. So now when we click this, we see that B is bigger than A, which is true. So let's give A a bigger value. Now we see A is bigger than B, and essentially all this is doing is this is updating the value for status depending on what happens here with the condition. So I can swap this around, and then of course this won't make sense, but we can do it the other way as well, and we can see A bigger than B, which it's not because we've swapped those around. So depending on if the condition is true, it's going to pick whatever output is appropriate. And this type of format and setting variables is really useful because it gives us the ability to set this dynamically depending on what's happening with the rest of our code and the rest of the values that we're working with. So in the next lesson, we're going to look at logical operators, and we're going to look at how they work within JavaScript. So that's coming up in the next lesson.